So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are you doing today? And it's the second week of lockdown in India, and I think the third week in the US, and multiple weeks in varying parts of the globe. So, we're all grappling with this new situation. And like last time I had mentioned, it's a new world which is emerging. And we're trying to see how we can future proof our finances and future proof our life. So this week we are trying to grapple with multiple issues that we have around us, and everybody is trying to understand what exactly is going on and what is the emerging world that's going to come, and which we can win. So it's a world where we can grapple, and which we can win, and we can future proof our life. And that's the question on, I would say, at least 98% of the population today are just trying to understand how can they future proof their life, and what exactly do they need to do to really grapple it. And a couple of weeks ago we spoke about the six jar method in terms of getting finances, and in terms of ensuring that we have the right finances in place, and the right method in which we can ensure that we have the financial freedom as we go ahead. This week, and of course, we also spoke about future proofing your own business in terms of the modalities of how to ensure that we get into the right businesses at the right time. So today we're going to go a little more deeper, level two. We're looking at trying to future proof your life, and this is a takeoff from the one previously. So please do go back to the previous video, see that first, and then you'll get a more inkling of what this is. I'd like to begin with this beautiful movie. I've seen it at least 5 times, and the name of the movie is Castaway. It always seems to leave a deep impact on me on various reasons. And I just happened to see it a couple of weeks ago again, and there was one thing that kind of stuck to me. And this is a movie where this particular person who's part of a courier company. He gets FedEx. He gets trapped onto an island by mistake due to a crash, and he's there on the island for 4 years. And luckily, as the story goes, he comes back. Comes back home, and in the last 10 minutes of the scene, he's having this chat with his close friend, whom he knew for the last many years, and he says something really magical. And I never heard of this in the previous times I saw it. Somehow this time when I saw it, I happened to catch it, and I rewound it again. So what he says is as follows, and this is a kind of a hint to how we can fix people life. He says that when he was trapped on the island, at one point of time he gave up hope. And I see a lot of people now starting to give up hope. In the current scenario also, he gave up hope, and he thought of committing suicide. So he took up but he wanted to test it, and he also says, I'm a person who likes to test things. So he took a log of wood and tied it to the rope. He went up to the top of that particular island where he was trapped. He took this particular rope, and he went to the top of the place and tied it onto the branch, onto the particular tree jutting out. And he dropped the log, and the rope snapped. And he says, at the end, he's kind of telling, and I was shocked that, I'm actually planning to commit suicide, but here it is that, there's something going wrong. I can't even seem to commit suicide. So, and then he realized that, he just needs to move on. And then he links it, to his girlfriend, very close girlfriend. They were supposed to get married 4 years before he got trapped on the island. And he says that, I've come back here, and I've lost Jenny, is her name. I've lost her all over again because, everybody assumed she was dead. So she went and married again. She went and married somebody else. So he says, I've lost her again. And you would wonder, now what do I do next? And I was just wondering what to do next. And the answer came, the same answer that came when I was trying to do suicide. There's only one thing to do. And then he gives a long pause. I love that pause. He gives a long pause in which a person goes on thinking, what can I do next? And I tried it out. I asked a few people around me, And people say, if you all can also think as you're thinking, okay, what can he do next? Okay, maybe he can, search for another girlfriend, or maybe he can now go to a new city, or maybe he can get back to his job, or maybe he can, just take a break and go somewhere. These are things which normally we think of, but he gives the answer after a long pause, very pregnant pause. He has, all I need to do is just breathe. It's amazing. It's amazing. I just need to breathe. And he explains, because you never know what the next morning tide will bring you. You never know what the next morning tide will bring you. And he just needed to breathe. And he says, and that's exactly what I'm going to do now. And when he's lost everything all over again, his girlfriend and everything, I'm just going to keep breathing. And and I think this particular movie is that particular hint is something which all of us should just carry. Because if you're ever thinking of what is to be done next, a lot of people have businesses, economy going down, depression. IMF has declared a depression. So what do we do next? Okay, the answer is just breathe. And that is the. I wanted to start with this particular movie and this topic. We just need to keep breathing, and you never know what tomorrow the tide will bring you. So just keep breathing, and something will work out. So anyway, we're coming to a few myths, and some of the myths that people think of is it's the end of the world. The world is kind of ending, financial doom. A lot of markets are going down, crashes happening across New York as well as Europe as well as India. All markets are crashing. It's a doom. Nobody will buy and invest. Is the kind of myths that are there, but actually it's not the truth. So let's try to see what the truth is. So the truth is actually it's a beginning of a new world. We need to try to take it in a different sense. It's not the end of the world. It's the beginning of a new world. And there's a financial reset button which has been put in, which means now we have all an equal opportunity to try to revamp and get back to whatever financial resets we can do. And people, in fact, will buy and invest more, but they'll buy and invest differently. And we need to understand what that buying investment is for our own industry. We could be in various industries, in varying ways of life. They're going to buy, invest, they're going to travel, they're going to enjoy whatever they were doing earlier, but they're going to do it differently. And each of us needs to try to understand what exactly is this different, and how can we be a part of it. So there's a changing mindset in the clients. They're going to be focusing on essentials and necessities, okay, at least in the next few months. They're going to be looking at future proofing themselves. And it's possible that they may be thinking short term, at least in the next few months. So these are some of the things which could happen, and it could change from the industry to industry, but these are some of the things that we can be sure of will happen in the next coming few weeks, months to come. And if this is the changing mindset of the clients, we need to see how we can change ourselves. What should my changing mindset? And earlier, normally the questions, would be, what can I get? How can we close? These are the normal questions which we normally ask. But in this changing scenario, in this particular pandemic situation, and the mindset of various clients going, the question really should be, what can I give? And what can I really give, from my side? And you can come up with all the skill sets, all that we can give. And then from there, we go on the next question, how can I help you? So these are the two things, that are critical in the way we move ahead. So before I go on to the next portion, I just thought I'll take a small pause and take any questions that are there in these particular slides. Anything that any of you have in mind before I go on to the final leg of 5 minutes.
I have just a quick thought, and this is something that I know I've heard from people. By changing their mindset right now, obviously it takes a lot of fortitude, a lot of humility and acceptance of the situation. what can someone do if they are just not able to shift to that, what can I give, because they feel like they have nothing to give. They've lost their job. They aren't making any money. They're worried about how they're going to pay their bills this month. Do you see what I'm saying?
I understand. So what can I give is it's a very comprehensive statement. And I normally, when I coach clients, I go through a sequence, and then it comes to this question of what can I give. And when it comes to the sequence, we actually look at not just, I know people have lost their jobs and maybe not having resources, but what can I give also pertains to what are my skills which I can, give. And the questions preceding this is, really, what are my skill sets, and what are my various things I'm good at. And those are the things I can give. I can probably give time to an old age home and spend half an hour, spending time with old people. That's something I can give, and it doesn't cost money. I can give time to a group of small children and probably, sing them some nursery rhymes. That's something I can give. Nobody's stopping us from that. I can probably do some paintings and, give it somewhere. We're just not talking about now getting. We're not talking about getting money for what you're doing. I'm first looking at what can I give, and we're to start with that. What can I give, and then move on to how can I help you. We come to the next part of it beyond that, in terms of what exactly, how can you pull it back. So, and this is a changing world. That's where it is. So shall I move on? Any thoughts?
Well, and I just want to add, if I can add one little anecdote or story. When I lost everything in the recession, which is very, very similar to what's going on for people right now, I had to stop. Instead of feeling sorry for myself, to your point, I made a list of all the things that were my talents and skills and what I could do to help others. And guess what? I actually ended up creating products and services that I'm still monetizing to this day. So by not feeling sorry for myself and being selfish and saying, well, what do I have to give? I ended up making money out of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the same is case with me. In fact, now I'm making some niche money in something called as speakology, which is the art of speaking, which I started as a hobby. I just wanted to train children to speak well in India, and I just started doing something free of cost as a part time, half an hour, 1 hour, once every week. But I got so good at it that now when the lockdown has happened and people are stuck at home, parents suddenly called me and said, hey, my kids are at home, can you kind of run some course? So, now I've got a Zoom call, and I've got almost 11 kids, jumped in, and paid kids this time now, they're paying, and, you can always, get something out of, as you give, I think, the nature gives you more and more resources to give, and somehow you'll keep getting. So that's a changing mindset. I'd like to spend the next few minutes on a beautiful book I've been reading, and it's called as The Richest Man in Babylon. Now, remember, Babylon is a place somewhere in Iraq, and it's in the old Iraq. It was supposed to be a very beautiful place, and you must have heard of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. It was a very beautiful place with a lot of luxury, bountiful, flowing with, water and honey, as they call it, and extremely rich people in Babylon. This book is a fictitious book inspired by some of the secrets of Babylon, and of course, it's a bestseller across the world. 2 million books sold. I'm going to list out 7 secrets that's there in the book, and it's amazing. Each secret, if you read through it, it's really good. So, secret number 1: pattern diapers. So the story goes, there was a person who was not so rich, and he was trying to learn how to become rich. So it's kind of a in a story format where the rich person is slowly training this particular person with a lean purse. Now remember, there's no banks in those times, so they have a very thin purse with no money. So the first lesson that the person gives is, and he's training in multitudes of 100, 200. He says, pattern thy purse. And the only way to do it is, he says, 10% of whatever you earn, you need to retain it in the purse. You only live with the 90%. And then there is one person or a few people in the audience who say, no, it's not possible, for me to retain 10%, because whatever I earn, I need to give. I need to spend on my expenses and my wife and children, etc., etc. So then he asks, how much are you earning? So he says, I'm earning 1,000 shillings, or copper coins, sorry, 1,000 copper coins. And he asks another person, how much are you earning? He says, I earn 800 copper coins. He asks third person, how much are you earning? He says, I'm earning 500 copper coins. So he tells the person who's earning 1,000 copper coins, you need to live a lifestyle of the person earning 800. And you who are earning 800, you need to live a lifestyle of the person who's earning. Go and study how he's living with 500 and live that lifestyle. For the person who's earning 1,000, go and study how this person is living with 800 and study and live that lifestyle. Very interesting, the way he narrates this particular story in a Shakespearean English kind of scenario. So that is the first one, pattern diapers, and that leads him on to secret number 2. Very powerful secrets. Control the expenditures. So rich men are people who don't spend luxuriously, lasciviously, or lavishly. They spend extremely less. They only spend as much as is required. So control, the expenditures is the second secret. You need to keep a monitor on what are the expenditures. And very relevant. This book is very relevant now, because the situation is such that we really need to control expenditures, as it goes on. The third secret is again beautifully narrated in the story. Make that gold multiply. So this person who's saving 10%, 10%, 10%, he finally says, okay, great. I've got a 1 year kind of saving, and he calls this very trusted bricklayer, person who lays bricks, and he gives the money to him and says he's going to a city called, I forgot the name. It's some fancy city, Obelisk or something. He's saying, you're going there. Please buy jewels, worth the money that you have. And when you come back here, we'll sell it for a higher price, and we will kind of share the profits. So this bricklayer goes, to the main place, and he buys something, comes back, but when he comes back, this person sees it's all pieces of glass. So he's shocked, all his wealth is gone. So he goes to that particular person, rich man, and says, I lost all my wealth because of this. So he says, remember to invest in the wise people. You can't choose a bricklayer to buy jewels. Just not done, And this is exactly the reason why we need good coaches. For example, Lewis is doing this coaching with Eric Lawform. Now, why is she doing it? And I'm also thinking of joining it. It's because he's somebody who's expert in sales. Now, there's no point in doing something with somebody who's not an expert in what he's doing. Now, would you be learning from Eric something about digital marketing? Probably no. Or would you be learning from him how to cook? Probably no. Now, you need to invest in the right people who have the right knowledge. So that is the secret. Number 3, making a gold multiply through the right channels and the right sources. And which is through investing wisely. And here again he has a second story where he gets the particular gold, he invests with the wise people, and the returns that come in from that particular investment, he blows it up in a celebration. And the rich guide, the coach who's there, says, oh my God, you've just eaten up your children, your slaves' children. He says, pardon me, what are you saying? So he says, the gold that you got, which you saved, is like your slaves. Treat them like your slaves. The interest that you earn from that particular gold are like the slaves' children. You're not to touch that. Okay. The slaves' children will in turn invest and get further children. It's only that you have a right on. So never touch the slaves nor the children. They're all going to be working for you. It's only the children after that which you can use for your your daily expenses or needs, etc. And that's when he comes to this particular point of compounding their interest. You have a investment, you invest it, and you keep compounding it, as time goes on, and it keeps, increasing, day and night. Of course, guard thy treasures, and there, of course, since it's all gold and silver and copper, etc., you need to ensure that you invest in whatever security you have. And in our case, it's actually investing in wise investments, in not places where possibly, the treasure can be lost. And the final secret is ensuring thy future or old age, because he mentions in the book that it's not possible that you can keep working as you are, beyond the point. At one point of time, you need to have something where you have a passive income. So there's a touch of the word of, not exactly the word, but the hint of, passive income in this particular book. It's a beautiful book. I recommend each of you to read this book cover to cover. It's a very small book, hardly 100 or 120 pages, but this is the secret stored in this particular book. And with that, actually, I come to an end of what I had to say. And just opening up the floor for questions on any of the topics, either ensuring the future or on Richest Man in Babylon.
I love that you recommended that book. I haven't read that book in years, but it's been on my shelf, so to speak. So it's good to dust it off and bring it back in and apply the principles. Because I think I read it once in my early 20s, and then it's always been recommended by some of my other leaders. So I think reading these books, but applying them and executing them, that's the deal, right? That's the challenge that all of us as humans face. And that's why, you mentioned Eric Waffle, and that's why I hire coaches and have mentors to keep me accountable and keep me moving the ball down the field, so to speak. So I think it's important for people to consider hiring you or working with us more readily, or finding someone. It doesn't have to be us, just finding someone to keep them accountable, because otherwise, left to our own devices, there's a lot of distractions.
Absolutely, yes.
Great. Wonderful. Well, I don't have anything else to add. I think you took it, deeper, and we'll go into continuing to support and serve people next week on, I think I'm going to maybe do a deeper dive into working from home and some new content on that, or we'll just surprise you guys.
Awesome. Looking forward to meet Louis again on 9th of April at 8 a.m. So great. Thank you so much for joining in. And, we'll catch up